I didn't know a lot about you, but I figured out from one of the talks, I think one of the TED talks that you gave at JNTU Kakinada, that you're also a South Indian boy.
Yes. Small town South Indian boy.
Yeah. Right now you're in Mumbai, if I'm not wrong.
And Mumbai,
right? How was your early ages when you were growing up? Like not the schooling part of it, because I think for all of us it sucked a big time. Like I eventually had to drop out. But how was it growing up in a South Indian family? And we'll then get back to something that you spoke about, which was the small town mindset, right? Yeah. I will probably focus on that a little bit. But how was it growing up?
Actually, like, I grew up in a town called Kakinada. It's now a city. Coastal Andhra Pradesh, close to a beach. Typical, I would say, Telugu boy of sorts. Like, half my family are doctors, half of them are engineers. I am also an engineer. Technically, I did get my degree, so I can call myself an engineer. And all the doctors stayed in India. All the engineers went to America. But that's where the standardness kind of goes away. My parents had me very young because they got married very young. I think my parents were 20 and 24 when they had me, so they were super young. Dad was still studying, mom was still studying, and because they were young and they were exposed to a bunch of things, I grew up with the Beatles. I grew up with books. I grew up with being able to consume stuff, which I would say many people, even in my class in school, didn't have. Maybe not even access to, because they didn't have the ability to. But I think the parents weren't interested in those. So while I would go watch a Telugu movie, I would also go watch other kinds of cinema. I would read books from across the board. In hindsight, my mother showed me Khalil Gibran's books when I was like very young, and I didn't understand the value of it. Now I do, which is why she gifted me a book recently, saying maybe now you'll see the value in that. Fair enough. So that's what I grew up with, and I also spent a bunch of time in Manipal on the other coast, because my dad was a doctor and he was finishing his master's there. But all in all, I was I don't look South Indian. Which I'm told. And it has been a thing in my through my entire life. And like my entire family looks like I do. I don't know. We have many jokes about this thing. Where did this come from? But what happened because of that is that I don't think I stuck out. Because it's a small town, the community was small. I had a good bunch of friends. My later part of my school journey back home was great, because I eventually moved to this slightly smaller school, which is connected to one of the industries there. So they didn't take too many students in, and it was well managed, and it was a lot better than going to some of those larger public schools of sort. But what changed for me was there was a point of time after my 10th when I decided to move out of Kakinada. And, you're in a small town, you tend to perform better because of what you have as competition of sorts, or people around you of sorts. But when you suddenly move to a city, you realize that maybe there is so much that people know more than you. And that hits you a lot harder. So I had a great time growing up, because could take a cycle and go to the beach and hang out there with a few friends when you were like, this is pre like alcohol days, so you just go hang there with some thumbs up, because we weren't old enough to drink, or you'd find some local chili chicken and have it there, or go watch a movie, Chiranjeevi movie in the theater. So I did all the standard stuff. I mean, I was also someone who liked to play by himself at home. So I would have my toys, I would make believe, I do stories. I would come up with imaginary things in my own head. So that was all just me by myself.
Yeah.
You take me out of the house, take me to my friends, I'm like straight up gulti, like shirt 2 buttons open, go play cricket, go hang out. So I could switch roles very easily, because I think that both are my personality, just that I chose to put one out there, chose to put one at home. And but when I went to Bangalore is when things really kind of changed for me mentally, because I suddenly felt like a fish out of water. I felt like everybody was cooler, everybody knew more.
Yeah.
You suddenly went from being in every sports team to not even being in contention to being in any sports team. You had an accent, which there was this point when And I moved to Bangalore, and suddenly you go from a small town to a bigger city, and everybody seems cooler. Everybody has more exposure than you in most cases. You also don't know enough. You listen to the wrong music because you listen to whatever you could find. And everything kind of suddenly went south. And you doubt yourself. I went from this person who was right up in front in everything, trying to be in sport. Not that I was great. I just managed to figure things out in sport half the time. Performing for everyone. To suddenly saying, okay, I'm very happy to be in the background. I don't want to be up in front because the chances of you being made fun of, you being kind of like shoved around a little bit is a little higher. So I became that person. I was that for a long time. I think a large part of my Bangalore journey was me being supremely insecure about my own abilities, what I could do. It didn't help that I wasn't doing well in school. Got kicked out of boarding school in between for bunking out. Didn't do well in engineering. So it was a bit of I'd say my entire period in Bangalore, although I had a lot of fun, made a lot of friends, discovered a whole new world. I spent a large part of it also the back of my head really being insecure, being low on confidence, and all that stuff. So
got it.
That's where I think the shift in childhood, you go from being this really fun, outgoing kid who likes to tell stories. Somebody would come to my house as a kid. I would come with costume changes to perform. Play a song and I would dance for you. I was that kid. I went from that kid to being someone who's like, okay, I'd rather just be in the background. It's okay to kind of be slightly invisible. And it took me years. I think eventually going to Pune, then eventually Bombay, making the right friends again, finding the right career for myself really made me kind of come out of it. But I think late teens and early 20s were a period of almost like switching myself to the background.